Man, I'm super excited for my guest this week. Joe Moretti's stepping out, and we've replaced him with somebody much more visually appealing and somebody who I actually have a lot of respect for. I've been watching your content for about 4 months. Producer Ryan actually put me onto your content, and I was like, wow, this girl is just as edgy as me. F-bombs like every video, but like quality content, a good message and delivery. So I'm like, I need to meet this person. I'm actually meeting you for the first time. We've talked online, but I've never met you. This is really exciting. So I feel like I'm meeting somebody that I've been following for 4 months, and I don't know you, but I do feel like I know you. So here we go. Welcome, Kristina Gautheir.
Thank you. I agree. It's been an honor to watch your content as well. And I love your feedback. And I always am super grateful for your feedback and just being there and having me here today. And yeah, so thank you.
That's awesome. Well, you know what? I have no idea where this call is going to go, but I'm going to take it on whatever journey that unfolds. So buckle up, everybody. Put your seatbelt on. I have no idea where this is going to go, but we did talk for a few minutes before the podcast. And I was like, hey, listen, is there anything I can't talk about? And you're like, nope. So let's just dive right into it. You have a colorful past. You grew up in an interesting environment. You grew up with a father who was a bit of a bad boy.
Yeah, he is.
You want to talk a little bit about
badass.
that? Yeah, let's talk about that. What's that like?
Oh, man. Okay, so I grew up, so I obviously had my mom as well. So my mom, the first 5 years of my life, she was great. 4 or 5 years of my life, she was great. I have great memories of her, great meals on the table, showing up, that sort of stuff. And then when I turned around like 4 or 5, she all of a sudden started locking herself up in the crawl space and started smoking crack.
Oh, no.
So things obviously started to descend. I have my late sister was 13 years older than me. So she very much played like a mother role in my life as well.
Right.
And then I had my badass dad. So, I mean, life is, like you said, been very colorful. Great parents, like great people, they have their strengths for sure, but parenting wasn't their strongest suit, to say the least.
Right. Did you feel like you had to parent yourself a little bit?
Absolutely. And I had to be the parent of them for sure. And, I always tell people I had 2 really good examples, of what not to do. Like I watched where the path took my sister, right? Like she was very beautiful. She was a party girl. She was out, doing her thing. She dated men with really like a lot of money that were all really quite abusive to her. And then I also had my mom. And then I watched my mom where she went and smoking crack cocaine, and like that took her nowhere fast. And then I had my dad that was always like, you know what, honey, you're going to be the cycle breaker. And I didn't even know, like even starting at age like 3, Jason, he'd be like, you're the cycle breaker. You're the cycle breaker. And I'm like, what the fuck is this dude talking about? Like, I don't know what that means. And then it started to click, right? And as I got older, I was the stronger one. I was always had that feist in me. I always was just like stood up for what was right. I've always been the black sheep of the family because I've always like called a spade. And I was like, we're not doing this anymore. So I definitely parented myself. I parented my parents. But it was just all part of the journey. It was the contract I signed up for. And I'm really actually super grateful it unfolded the way it did.
Well, it's interesting that you have that perspective, because a lot of people would be in that scenario that you were in, and they would be victims. They would blame everything on circumstance. A lot of people might have a drug problem or have other problems. I mean, Joe and I talk about this, the importance of changing your environment and surrounding yourself with the right people. I was talking to a friend of mine, actually. She's an addictions counselor. And she said people have they have an exceptional rate of getting people off drugs when they're at the facility. Like it's almost 100%. She said the relapse rate is really high though, because people go back to the same environments that got them there in the first place. I got to ask you, and this is important for people listening, because you might actually help some people today. For people that are in a situation where they're looking around, they're realizing like, this isn't the right environment. I know that I'm like being pulled down. How do you break that cycle? Like, what was it that made that switch happen for you where you decided, you know what? I want to be that cycle breaker. I do not want to be that person that ends up, unfortunately, like your late mom. I'm so sorry to hear that, by the way, or, some of the things that you've seen and been a part of. Tell us what that journey was like, because I know that's not easy. You have to go against the grain of all the people that you're around. That must be so difficult.
Yeah, everyone's been pointing the finger at me that I've been the problem my whole life. So it's nothing out of the, or like I'm totally used to this. I just knew, like I said, I had these examples, right? If I took path A, what my mom took, this is where it's going to end me. If I take path B, you know, this is where this is going to end me as well. My sister also died of a fentanyl overdose. So I am literally the first one to break out of the cycle. So for me, it was just like when I turned, you know, I was really young. I was like probably 22. I could see these patterns of my mom coming out in me and just like how I was handling things. And I was just like, this isn't who I want to be. I don't want to go there. And I've always been really self-aware, which is such a really great gift for myself. And I'm really good at like pinpointing patterns within my life. I'm like, okay, girl, like now this has become a fucking pattern and now this is an issue, right? So we got two choices. I had two choices growing up, either sink or fucking swim. And it was hard. It was hard growing up in that lifestyle. And I refused to sink. So I was like, girl, you got to swim. So if you're going to swim fucking hard. And so it really came down to, because honestly, Jason, I've actually had a 6-year Percocet addiction myself. In my 20s, I was addicted to Percocets every single day. I ate them for 6 years. And I quit myself. I got off on my own. I weaned myself off. I had a couple little relapses, but now I'm 5 years clean. I haven't touched anything since. And it all comes down to me. From my perspective, my belief is that it's the relationship with ourselves. I started to heal my trauma. I started to peel back the layers. Like, who am I? What are these old stories? Like, what's keeping me stuck? Because prior to that, I did have the victim mentality. My childhood was rough. You know, my dad didn't love me, quote unquote, whatever, right? But then finally it came to the point where I was like, girl, you fucking own this, or sink or swim.
Wow. Man, you really have been through a lot. And you're not, like, you're younger than me. It's weird. As I'm getting older, I start noticing everybody seems younger than me.
Well, how old are you?
I'm 39.
Okay, well, I'm 36, so I'm not that far behind
Well,
you.
you know, 3 years. I'm old enough to be like your big brother, for sure, right? By 3 years. But, you know, at this age, I'm noticing that, you know, people have been through some stuff. You know, I mean, it's not that many people that you know our age that haven't been through something. You've been through a lot. Oh, my goodness. Like your sister, your mom, you had your own battle and addiction. 5 years clean. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
That's a huge accomplishment. You got to feel really good about that. What was it that made you decide? Because I always tell people, I say, look, you can make a decision in an instant. You can change your life by just making that decision right here and now that today is going to be different. What was that defining moment for you where that switch went off and you decided, no, I'm not doing this anymore?
There's a few factors at play here. So one being my late sister's daughter, Liberty, my niece, who I am now raising since my sister has passed away. She was around 4 and she was like starting to put the pieces together. Like I had gone to go see the drug dealer. We'd grabbed some Percocets and she was like, oh, hey, that's mommy and daddy's friend. And I was like, fuck, like you got to do better, girl. Right. And so there was that piece. And then knowing like my own childhood and knowing my sister's childhood and just knowing within myself since day one that when I had this promise to myself that when I had children, I would just do better. I knew what it felt like to have such a shitty fucking childhood filled with like trauma and, you know, poverty and domestic violence and all the things, right? So I was like, I can't do this to her. So that was a part of it. The other part was just very much playing the tape. So I'm like, okay, here you go, Kristina. You're buying these perks. You're from this drug dealer. You're taking the perks. You're eating them. You're numbing yourself out. They actually don't even make you feel good. They give you a headache. You're bitchy. You're not even getting what you want out of it. So then, you know, why are we doing this? And then when I would travel, I'd have to make sure I had perks with me, or if I, you know, I always had to make sure. And I was like, what are you doing? Why are you giving your power away to this little pill? Like this pill is controlling you, Kristina. And I was like, like I've always been a control freak, but with myself, like because I'm so self-aware, right? And so I never really experimented with other drugs. Like I said, I've never snorted cocaine. I've tried, you know, ecstasy a couple times and MDMA, but I still have never snorted anything because I've always been really aware of like what I looked like and like what I was putting out. So I was like, this has to stop. We're not giving our power away anymore. And so, like I said earlier, I just started this healing journey and started reconnecting with myself, and that was just the get-go. And then when my sister died, I was already a year clean. And then when my sister died of the fentanyl overdose, I was like, it was just the icing on the cake. Like, obviously, we're not going back to that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you look like you're in really good physical condition. And that's another thing that we talk about, right? Change your fitness, improve your health, and everything else improves. I'm somebody who's suffered from manageable anxiety my whole life. It was so debilitating when I was in grade 3 that I couldn't focus. And we were building a house at the time, and my parents lived across the street from the Quarterway School while we were building this home. And I would go and sneak out to the bathroom and just go and check to see if my mom's car was there. And if it wasn't there, I was a wreck. I was so worried. My sister couldn't go to a sleepover at a friend's house without me being worried that something would happen. And I was in grade 3. So I'm like, maybe what, 9? Like 8.
Young.
And my dad worked away from home, and I felt like I had to be the man of the house, and I was the oldest of 2, and I just felt like I had all this responsibility. And so I've always been this really old soul. I don't know if you can relate to this at all.
Absolutely.
I was always the one that wanted to look out for my friends, take care of people around me. I was very straight edge most of my adult life. You know, I was always career focused and focused on the bigger picture. But the one thing I neglected for a long time was loving myself first. I don't know if this relates at all, and people listening, I took care of everybody else, but I didn't take care of myself. I was always trying to lift everybody else up, but I wasn't lifting myself up. And about 1.5 years ago, I decided, you know what? Like, I don't want to be this beta version of myself. I want to be like my most alpha version of me. Now, keep in mind, I'm a man, right? So being masculine for me is a positive thing. I don't believe in toxic masculinity. I think it's important. I want to be a gentleman. I want to be able to open a door for my wife, for example. I want to be able to show my sons that, like, hey, you know what? You can strive to be something and provide a great lifestyle for a woman who's blessed you with kids, right? Like, to me, that's something honorable.
It's a gift.
Right? Work hard. Don't just like look for short-term pleasure. And so fitness is something that I decided 1.5 years ago I was going to really embark on. And I've been working so hard to like lead by example, push my brothers that I work with, that I surround myself with, to do the same. And we've really created this amazing movement. And we're all in better physical shape. We feel better. We're looking better. We're performing better. How important has that been for you in your recovery? Because I've seen some studies recently where they're talking that 85% of anxiety and depression could be cured by physical activity. How important has that been for you in your recovery?
So I've also have anxiety. I've dealt with manageable anxiety my whole life as well. So I fully can hear what you are saying. I've always been one that's liked to work out. Even when I was in active addiction, I was still at the gym. For me, so absolutely, like, we have to take care of ourselves, like mind, body, soul, right? So not even just gym, like meditation, yoga, reconnecting, like all of it is just such a key to success. Once we like look at the trickle effect you're having, right? You did this yourself, and now your crew around you, and everyone's growing and glowing. And that's what we want to do, is we want to, inspire other people to show up, right? And to love ourselves. And that's the cool thing about when we heal ourselves, is that we inspire others to do the same. So many people come to me and they're like, Kristina, your videos, like, my girlfriend messaged me the other day. She's like, Kristina, your videos gave me the confidence to leave my husband after 17 years. I've been so unhappy. And I'm like, fuck yeah, girl, right? Like, this is amazing. Like, if I can use my story and my journey to inspire you to heal, inspire others, it's so powerful, right? So, and showing up for ourselves is the best gift we can give ourselves, to honor ourselves first, right? Because now you're showing your boys how to do that. And, contrary to what society has brainwashed us to believe, that it's selfish and that we're wrong and, we should, fill up other people first. Like, we can't pour from an empty cup. And exactly why they ask us on a plane, put your own mask on first before you put on others, right? How can we, we can pretend and lift everybody else up, but it all comes down to energy. And if we feel shitty inside about ourselves, your boys, your family, your crew, everyone around you is going to feel that, right? So there's only so many masks that we can pretend to wear and pretend like it's all good, right? But it all comes down to energy.
I love that. Let me ask you something. This would be interesting. Actually, I'd love to hear your take. What's it like being in your 30s, dating in this crazy world of 2023? I've been out of that game for quite a while. I'm actually genuinely curious what that's like.
Okay, well, I wondered if you were going to ask me this.
I want to hear it, because
Yeah.
I would assume that for you, I mean, you're an attractive female entrepreneur doing well for yourself. So I would assume that it'd be easy for you to find people to date. But I have a lot of attractive female friends that are telling me that it's like crazy out there, and it's weird, and it's not like what I remember. I remember a time where you would meet people face to face, not behind a keyboard. So I just got to hear, what's your perspective on this dating world now?
So coming up September, I've been single for 4 years, and I've never been single for 4 years of my life. I've been so unbelievably committed to myself and my healing journey. First 2.5 years, I didn't let any man near me. No one text me, no one stroke my ego, nothing. I was like, this is me time, right?
Yeah.
I actually just signed on a couple weeks ago, online dating. No such luck, but I'm so aware of what I want. I am so dialed in to what I want out of a man that I'm not willing to settle. Like, why would I settle at this point? I've put so much work into myself. I don't feel that any man has to lower his standards to be with me. So why would I be willing to do that? I'm not. I truly, my intuition tells me it's not going to come from online. I feel it's going to, some other way, it's going to come in. So I made the commitment to myself, just put myself on there for a month. If something comes in, great. If not, then just, I truly believe in the divine plan. It is going to unfold exactly the way it's meant to unfold. I have been manifesting a particular man. Like I know, like I said, I know exactly what I want. He needs to be self-aware. He has to do the healing work. Like that is a non-negotiable for me. Tall, dark, handsome. Like I would prefer an Indigenous man that wants to break the cycle with me. Like I need a man, like I have so much power running through me, Jason, that like I need a man that can meet me where I'm at, right? And not be intimidated by me and not try to control me and not try to like, bring me down because he sees my bright light. So I'll wait.
Wow, that's a big list, fellas. So here's what I'm going to say. Invest in cat food, guys. Because that's an exhausting list. I don't know how any man will live up to that.
What?
But I hope you get that, Kristina.
Why are you saying it like that?
I'm just, because it's actually funny when you listen to women describe like their list. It's long. That's quite the list.
But I can,
Tall, dark, handsome.
But I can show up
work.
that same way though, right? I bring that to the table. So it's like, why would I say like, I don't want that?
Right.
Right. If I can meet you at that table and bring that, like, I'm not going to settle for some dud. Like, fuck that.
Well, okay, let's play this little game, okay? Because women love to have their standards. What if a guy throws out a list of standards? Generally, it's met with, that's toxic. You're misogynist. You're a hater of women. And just like women, guys have preferences too.
Absolutely.
So, for example, if a guy was to say, listen, I want to be with a woman who has a lower body count, or I want to be with a female who is younger, 25,
Totally.
26, doesn't have kids, doesn't like, if a guy said that out loud, like these two are looking at me right now like, oh my God, please don't go there. Please don't go there. We're going to get some hate. But I'm going there because I'm curious from a female's perspective.
I just don't see it as an issue. Like, then
Really?
that means that I'm not for him.
Right.
Our souls, like, Jason, I very much believe that before we get to Earthside, our souls write contracts, right? With everyone that comes into our life, right? And so if my soul didn't write a contract with Buddy that wants a 25-year-old, well, then my soul didn't write the contract. And I wish him the best, and he's not for me, and I'm not for him.
So you're okay with that?
Absolutely.
You're okay with
I don't want him to.
Cool. I like that.
I don't want him to settle for what he doesn't want, like, and then not be happy. Like, we all are worthy of what we want in a partner, right?
Okay, let me ask your opinion on this. This
Okay.
is a fascinating topic for me. And I watched one of your videos. I think it was a couple months ago. It was one of the first videos that I watched, and you were celebrating masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in a world where that's like almost hated on. Like the word toxic masculine gets thrown around, and truthfully, the second there's an emergency, we all want that toxic masculine man to come and bail us out. If there's a fire in here and somebody needs to be rescued, I'm hoping some toxic masculine guy shows up who's strong, fit, and can carry us out of the building. So what's your thoughts on that whole hating of men, and women and men should be the same and compete with each other, and this whole like movement that we have? Do you have any opinions on that? I'm actually genuinely curious from a female's perspective.
So why does he have to be toxic to come and to rescue us?
Well, because toxic masculinity means like they're strong, stoic, very masculine. Maybe they work out a lot, who knows? I don't know what toxic masculine really even means.
Okay, so toxic masculinity is more like controlling, jealous, belittling, right? That's where the toxicity comes in. And it just usually comes down to wounded energy, right? So I very much feel that men and women, we should be, like there's no difference between you and I. Like we're on an equal playing ground. There's no reason why men should get paid more than women. I'm not interested in toxic masculinity because I've been with those types of men my whole life, right? Those are the types of the men that, are controlling and are verbally abusive and physically abusive and financially abusive, right? That's when we get into toxicity, right? But when you're in your healthy masculinity and you're opening doors and you're teaching your boys the right thing and you're bringing up your crew and you're starting this, this wave of positivity, like that's a whole different ballgame.
So you don't see that as toxic?
No, that's hot as fuck.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good to hear because a lot of people nowadays, because like we're very accountable to each other. Like I could
Perfect.
look over at Joe and I could be like, listen, Joe, you've let yourself go. You're way better than this. You're at like a 4 out of 10 out of your potential. And I could say it very direct. I probably say it way more direct than that, don't I?
Oh, we both call ourselves out like each other out.
Like
every day.
we don't hold back, Kristina. And that's the thing. Like I think sometimes this gets misunderstood because generally I find ladies like to talk to each other in a very positive manner. They like lift each other up, but sometimes I call it gaslighting. They'll like kind of give a white lie to make somebody feel better. We don't do that with each other. Like if Ryan doesn't show up to the gym, he's getting chirped by every single one of us. I don't care if you have a headache. I don't care if you're like have a fever. Like why didn't you get your fucking ass in the gym?
Man up.
That's exactly, because life's not easy. And I'll tell you, for us, it's very accountable. Like we have to build as men, you have to build yourself up. Like if you listen to the list that you gave, some guy's going to have to really step up and like really have worked on himself. I promise you, he's not going to be able to just have that at 18, 19. He's going to have to
No.
build it up over years.
course.
And so the point that I'm trying to get to here is I believe that we're different. I think you have different superpowers naturally as a woman that I would have. And it's not like, I think this whole idea of us competing makes no sense. Because if you think about feminine and masculine, we're always designed those energies to really combine together, right?
Yin and yang, right? It's
Yin and
not a
yang.
competition. We're better together. When we're in our healthy masculine and feminine.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like we're in this world now where it seems like everything's been kind of like turned into this kind of middle ground where women need to be more masculine and men are having to be more feminine. It almost seems unnatural to me. And I'm struggling with it because I'm raising 3 boys and I have a daughter. And I'm going to be honest, like I probably am going to raise my sons a little differently than I will my daughter, just because there's ways that I can communicate with my guy friends that I might probably not communicate to my female friends in.
Probably a good idea.
Probably a good idea, right? Because we're different. This whole idea, like I think we should have the exact same rights. I agree with you. You should get paid exactly the same as a guy for the same qualified job as long as you're as competent and vice versa. However, to say that we're the same is crazy.
Yeah.
We clearly have different superpowers. Like you have the potential to bring humans into the world, which is like the craziest, most amazing gift that anybody could have. And then for me, I was designed to be more physical and probably would have some more physical strength if we were to have a workout.
Absolutely.
But again, we're designed to complement each other. What are your thoughts on this whole woke stuff that's going on out there? Do you have any opinions? I'm curious. Do you think that it's getting a little bit too far out there? Are you just like bring it all on? I actually am genuinely curious your thoughts on this one. You said we can go anywhere with this conversation, so here I am.
I don't really pay attention, to be honest. Like, so you just said about your friend group that you guys call each other out. Me and my girls are very much like that too. Like there's no little white lies here. Like we don't play that game. Like we call each other out, right? If there's an issue, we're talking woman to woman, we're sitting down, we're pulling back the trauma, we're pulling back the narratives, and we're figuring out what the fuck's going on here, right? So I do know there's a lot of people that like say they're woke because they like do affirmations and like, that's about as far as it goes. But like for me, like if you're awoken, you've gone through a spiritual awakening, you are leaning into the hard shit. You are pulling back your trauma. You are investing in yourself, right? You are showing up on the shitty days and the good days, right? And just being unapologetically yourself. So yeah.
What's Kristina like on a good day? What's like your superpower? If you were to pick one thing that you think you do exceptionally well, if I pulled like your 5 best friends, and I was like, what does Kristina do exceptionally well? What's your superpower?
Making people see their own power. I'm really good at reminding you who the fuck you are. And like, why did you come here? We didn't come this far to just come this fucking far. Like, right? So I'm really good at like making people feel good about themselves. And I'm also really good at speaking the truth just saying it how it is. And I get that very much from my dad. Like
Yeah.
I've calmed it down a little bit. He's a little bit,
A little out there.
yeah, he's a little left field sometimes. So, but I very much am like straight to the point. Like I'm not beating around the bush about something. We got something that we need to fucking talk about. Like let's start chatting.
Let's go.
I want to know what your superpower is.
My superpower is my ability to trust my read on people. So when I meet somebody and I'm like, I see something in them, I trust my instinct and I go all in on it.
Cool.
Like I just will trust it.
I love that.
I have very good trust, and I'm really good at seeing what people's genius is. And I think that's been a part of my success building businesses, is that I could recognize people's superpower and then build systems around their superpower so that people spend more of their time doing it. Does that seem accurate?
I think so.
Yeah. Joe's my right-hand man. He's like, him and I have worked together for over 4 years. He's like my brother at this point, you know? And he was a guy that I didn't know that well, but I had a read on who he was as a person, and he happened to be available. And I called him. I was the first person to call him. He was coming back from Mexico on a trip with his family. He's still in the airport in Calgary waiting to connect. And I called him. I was like, hey, Joe, I listen, I heard that you're available. We got to talk. Can we have lunch tomorrow? So we booked lunch the next day, and I remember telling him what I was planning to do with our coaching company, the foundation we'd laid through our real estate business. And he looks at me and he's like, I'm in. He didn't ask, what am I getting paid? He didn't ask any of the detailed questions. For him, it was, I believe in you. I believe in the vision. I'm in. And Kristina, it was crazy because I actually thought I was going to get a call the next day. Hey, so I talked it over with my wife. I made a mistake, like blah, blah. I was totally expecting that because it was 100% all in, committed. And you know what? I never got that phone call, and he delivered on everything he said he was going to do. And honestly, like I would take 10 bullets for the guy. No question. I would stand out there if there was a gunman and I would take the bullet. I'd be like, I'll take the bullet. I'd do the same for Ryan though. Ryan's somebody I've known for a long time too, and like love his family. And, you know, he's been through some things in his life, and you know, I just care about him a great deal. You know, I just think he's an amazing human being. So that's my superpower, is I think my ability to see what people's genius is and then just trust it. Like, for example, you watching your content, I was just like, you know what? I trust that we're going to have a great interview today. I'm all in. I'm like, guys, book you in. It took forever. I'm sorry that it took us like 2 months to get here, but here we are. And I was right. You know, I love the fact that you've been through some stuff. You're real. You're not trying to put on this fake front today. You're just being very honest and vulnerable. And I appreciate that. And I think people listening will appreciate that too. And so you're doing some amazing things. Like you're also, you've adopted two boys, or you're in the process of adopting a couple boys and helping them go
My
through.
indigenous boys. So I support 2 boys that are in the foster system.
Okay.
Yeah, so I pretty much just love them. So this job was also created for me because of my journey. The guy that is the assistant executive director of where I work at Kwame Layla, he called me into his office after my sister had passed away. He's known me since I was 12. He was good friends with my sister. He called me in and he was like, hey, he's like, I want you to come have a meeting. Come sit down with me. And I'm like, okay. So I went in and he said, you know, Kristina, I've known you since you've been 12 years old. No one has handed you anything. No one has given you any money. No one's like, you've done this all yourself. And I could not be more proud of the woman you are today. And I actually want you to mentor my kids. Will you come work for me? And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I'll pay you more, like X, Y, and Z. Like, when can you start? I'm like, no problem. So I literally am getting paid to love these 2 boys and just teach them how to show up for themselves, teach them how to honor themselves, teach them how to lean into the trauma, teach them how to rewrite the narrative, right? Like everything that I believe in, I'm teaching these boys how to do. And so I'm doing that as I am currently building my coaching career myself, right? Wow. So I'm using my journey to inspire other people to heal, and using everything I've invested in myself and giving it to my clients and teaching them how to show up and heal their shit.
That's amazing. That's so cool. So you're literally making impact in young people's lives, in your community, in our community. that's really powerful. That's really cool.
It's a gift.
It is.
To come from where I went from, like from where I was, to have all these cards stacked against me, to break out of the cycle, and few cycles, right? I broke out of, dating domestic, toxic men, narcissistic men. I broke out of, addiction cycle. I broke out of, I'm the first person in my lineage to love herself, right? So it's like, I'm breaking all these cycles. I'm showing up for my sister's 2 late kids. When my sister died in 2017, I actually took their dad to court and I fought for parental guardianship. Wow. I fought for 2 hard years. And at the end of it, I actually didn't get anything. I got the verdict was nothing. I got no visitation rights, nothing. And right when that happened, Jason, I knew that the universe had a bigger plan. And it was that my whole life, I also did what you did. I made sure everyone else was okay. My self-worth was based on what this person thought of me. And, and so it was like that in that moment, the universe was like, no, girl, this is your time to heal. This is your time to finally invest in yourself. And that's just what I did. I just went all in hard on me and invested on my healing, right? And then 5 years later, last summer, I didn't, this is the other part. I didn't talk to my dad for 5 years after my sister had died either. I pushed everybody out. I was like, get the fuck away from me. I need to heal. Everyone was mad at me for taking the dad to court. The kid's father was still in active addiction. So I was like, hey, I knew how trauma was going to play out. I lived this life. And I was like, if I don't get my hands on these kids, there's a good chance that my kids are going to end up on drugs as well, right? My sister's kids. So I pushed everybody out. 5 years goes by. I do a bunch of healing. I ripped my father wound open. I went on this crazy journey of like forgiving him and just realizing that like it was never personal. He didn't not show up for me because I wasn't unworthy or because he didn't love me or because like all of these stories I had created. It was because he literally just didn't have the tools. Right? He has a boatload of his own trauma that he didn't heal. Right. So after the 5 years, I called him up and I was like, hey, Dad, like, I'm ready to have a conversation. And I sat down with him just like this, just like we are right now. And I said, Dad, like, I've realized that, your inability to not show up for me, it wasn't because I wasn't unworthy of you. I wasn't unworthy of your love. You just didn't know how. And literally I could just feel this weight lifted off of his shoulders. And, my whole life I was always looking for outside validation. I was like, oh, if I date this bad boy, he'll like me. If I date this bad boy, if I do this, right? He would never validate me until I came home to myself. When I came home to myself and started speaking my truth and speaking this language of healing and breaking cycles and showing up and honoring myself, all of a sudden he's like, honey, like you're on quite the path. And he's like honoring me all the time. And then he called, and then he brought the kids back, my late sister's kids back into my life. And, my niece has been back in my life for a year now and just going on this journey with her and trying to heal with her and, teach her how to do the same things. And it's just a wild fucking journey, I'm telling you.
Wow, that's so impressive. Oh my goodness. You've been through so much, and the fact that you're here right now means anybody listening, please stop making excuses for why you can't live the life that you want, right?
Absolutely.
You have the ability to make a decision right now and live a different life.
Absolutely.
Something hit me today. We live in a world that is full of people seeking happiness all the time, and all they're doing is finding short-term dopamine hits. For example, I'm not feeling well today, or I'm depressed, so I'm going to go eat ice cream. So you feel good for 20 minutes, right? Then, the next dopamine hit. I'm going to go and I'm going to have some drinks with my friends tonight. Boom, next dopamine hit. And people are just constantly looking for these meaningless things that bring short-term happiness, but have no fulfillment. So another thing that I've been really focused on with our coaching and the people that we're helping is like, get a purpose. Your job isn't to be happy all the time. Your job is to have purpose so that you can look in the mirror and realize that you are proud of yourself. You could look at yourself in the mirror right now and you can say, I'm really proud of who I am today.
Absolutely.
Like, how good does that feel for you, knowing where you were before, seeking those short-term dopamine hits, having no purpose, thinking that you're finding little bouts of happiness, but actually now you've done the hard work. You didn't take the easy road. But like, when you look in the mirror now, what would you say to yourself?
Oh, I love you. I am so proud of you. Absolutely. It makes me emotional. Like I cry driving all the time. Just so grateful for the woman that I am today and the power that I've stepped into, and to be using my story now to empower other people to heal. So like you said, it's a choice, right? And it's like playing the tape out, right? The go for the dopamine, go for the drinks. Yeah, sure. It's going to, numb us out for, an hour or two, but then we're back in the same shit, and it's just going to cause more anxiety, and it gets worse and worse and worse. We can't run from our trauma. Right? We can't run from the anxiety. Sure, we can temporarily stuff it down, but it just continues to build, right? And honestly, Jason, the real flex is healing your nervous system, is having a nervous system that is calm, that you can deal with things, that, you can go through life's ebbs and flows without having to run to the bottle or to the ice cream or whatever it is, right? So yeah, I'm so unbelievably, incredibly proud of myself. I'm such a gift to be here.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
I think it's really neat, and it's amazing to see that you're now going to make massive levels of impact. At one point you may have been almost somebody that's not really contributing a whole lot to society, to now you are making massive levels of impact. And, I think one day when you look at your whole life story, because I believe that when you pass one day, you're going to see your life flash in front of you. You're going to have a lot more check marks than you do X's on your scorecard, girl. Just keep doing the work, keep making impact. I'm so grateful for the time that we had today. This really meant a lot to me.
Thank you.
I appreciate the journey that we went on with this conversation, and I actually look forward to having you on again in the future. And if anybody's interested in maybe doing some spiritual work themselves, they want to improve, they're looking for some mentorship and some guidance, that's not necessarily what we do. How do people get a hold of you, Kristina?
They can find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook. My website's up there. Yeah, shoot me a DM. I'm taking new clients on. I'd be more than happy to go on healing journeys with people and just teach people how to, start their healing journey, reconnect with their inner child, and, show up for themselves the way they've always wanted to. It's such an honor. And my client's healing journey becomes my healing journey, and watching them grow, I'm just like, wow, it's the best gift to get out of this job, to watch people like peel back the layers and turn into like who they've always wanted to be. So it's such a gift. I'd be honored.
Awesome. Well, there you go, guys. We'll put Kristina's information available. Comment if you guys have some comments on today's episode. This is completely different than what Joe and I often do with the episode, but kind of fun, actually. I really enjoyed this. Very different topic, but relevant too to a lot of the teachings that we have. Hey, Joe, get the right people around you. Look at yourself in the mirror. You are in control of your life. Do not let something else control it. Right?
Absolutely.
You can't give your power to something else. You have to take your power back. I think that's the message that I took away from a lot of what you talked about today, is really empowering yourself, because once you have that, you can change the world. So amazing. Thank you so much, Kristina. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.